What's happening, Hardscapers? This is episode 348 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And on today's episode, we are joined live on Instagram and Facebook with Nelson from Call Nelson Landscaping. We get into a variety of topics, including his background in the industry, what led him to start his own business, and what he's learned along the way to apply to his business from his past experience. But before we get into today's episode, we want to say thank you to our sponsors. Cycle CPA. If you're looking for bookkeeping, accounting, CFO services, reach out to Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com. Let them know How to Hardscape sent you for money off their services there. And Knowledge Tree Consulting. George and Peter there are efficiency consultants in our industry, and I've had the privilege of having them both on one episode of the How to Hardscape podcast, and George multiple other times. And if you're looking for a software to dive into for your hardscaping, landscaping business, check out the How to Hardscape headquarters software, where we help you budget, estimate job costs, time track, schedule, chat groups, courses for training, safety training purposes, so many different features that I could get into, but you can check them all out at headquarters.com. That's how to hardscape headquarters.com. Or even easier, click the link in the show notes of this episode or send me a message at how to hardscape on Instagram, and we can set you up with a demo to walk you around, show you what this software can do for your business. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. All right, today we're joined by Nelson from Call Nelson Landscaping. Thanks for bearing with me. This is our first interview-based podcast or live podcast on the How to Hardscape podcast. Nelson, how you doing today?
Good, man. Good.
Thanks so much
ready for the snow apocalypse on the way. So
yeah. Thanks so much for joining us. And you actually brought up the thought of actually going live on Instagram here to do this. So this is a unique thing that I've never done before with a guest, but thank you so much for the suggestion and actually bearing with me through this live process here.
Hey, no worries.
So any questions that our audience has, you can put them in the chat. I'll try to monitor them as Nelson's answering my questions. Once again, Facebook, How to Hardscape, as well as here on Instagram. Nelson, let's get started to get to know a little bit more about you, yourself, how you got started in the industry leading up to actually starting your business. Wherever you want to start, wherever you want to end. But yeah, how did you get started?
Fair enough. Yeah, I guess originally we started off... I'd lost, sort of had a bunch of unfortunate events in life, which led me to move to Parry Sound for a while. And then I met a stonemason up there. And this guy was pretty much putting everything out there to start his own business at the time. And I just happened to be right place, right time, young guy, needed a job. And I worked all over the islands up there, man. We split stone. I mean, I think I've told this story to a lot of people where we used to quarry in the boulders from the quarry. We'd get the great big chunks of granite dropped. We'd split all that up by hand. Then we'd take that, we'd use that on our jobs throughout, all over Parry Sound anyways. Had a couple huge jobs in Bala. I think we were splitting stone for that particular job for almost 2 years. Like, it was massive. And that's sort of how I got the start. From there, worked with that guy for several years. And then my wife wanted to go to college. She wanted to study to be a nurse. So we ended up in Toronto. I didn't realize at the time, but my skills that I got down there in Parry Sound, they transferred very, very good to hardscaping up in the city, like totally different thing. My work ethic from down there really transferred up here really well. Then I started working for a couple landscape companies when I first got down here. Worked for a really big company, Iberia Landscaping. Shout out to Chris and those guys. Those guys took care of me for, I think, 10, almost 15 years working through those guys. Fantastic people. But I sort of got to a point with that company where it's like, I'd sort of reached the max. I kind of wanted more. So I was like, okay, the next step is kind of to start your own thing. See how you can go. And that's sort of how Call Nelson Landscaping sort of came to be.
Gotcha. Nelson, we can't hear you on Instagram. Is there any way that we can maybe get that going?
Yeah, there we go. That was there. Sorry, I muted it there.
Oh, okay, perfect. So I will just double check. Can you hear Nelson? All right. So yeah, going off of that, in your experience at those different companies, what were some things that you kind of learned along the way to help you either get the confidence or be able to know that, hey, I could start my own business and do this through your different various experiences that you talked about?
let's say the up north stuff, you learn work ethic. Like you're put into positions up there. Like you'll get on a boat, you'll go to an island, and there's no coming back. So, well, no coming back for the day, I mean, obviously, but I mean, you've learned a certain work ethic out there because you're going to have to work hard. It's going to be challenging. You're going to come across all kinds of problems. You're going to have to solve stuff on your own. Like one particular job on the islands, the stone didn't come out there. So I mean, then for to get barged to our location, it's like a 3-day process for the barge to go from the dock to the job site. You're pretty far out there. The barge is huge, and so what we ended up doing is we ended up taking rocks out of the bay and splitting them, and we started building fireplaces out of that. So I mean, you learn to sort of work around you. As you come to the city, you become much more business focused. So you start learning, you start learning about like SOPs and stuff like that. And like again, I guess up north you learn how to work. In the city, you learn how to conduct a business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or for me anyways.
So what was the catalyst to actually start the business and decide that route as opposed to continuing to work for somebody else?
Well, let's say, first of all, let's say like working for that other company, they were great. Like, so there was never any bad blood there. I'm sure if I decided I wanted to stop working today, they would hire me in a heartbeat. I mean, great relationship with those guys. But I felt I got to a point where I wanted to do more. I wanted to be more creative. I thought that there was something more that I could offer the hardscaping game, I guess. And of course, I mean, the initial thought is I want to work for myself and make my own hours. But in reality, we know when you work for yourself, you work way more hours.
Yeah.
But it's I think that transition from being an employee to being able to hire people, right? Like I wanted to do more with the goal of I just wanted to build my own business up, and then there's different things that I want to implement along the way.
Mm-hmm. And then what was the year that you started Call Nelson Landscaping there?
I started to dabble on my own around 2019, so right around the COVID time, right?
Yep.
And that's when we had that big boom. So I said I was still working for the other company then, but I think the following year is when I fully went on my own. So 2020, I think, is when it really took off for myself.
Nice.
With some stuff sprinkled in 2019.
Gotcha. And then when you first started, what was the process of kind of getting clients signed up, getting projects? What did those projects initially look like in your business?
Yeah, so they're reasonably small. I think my biggest one at that time was like 1,000 square feet. And at that time, I literally had my pickup truck, I had a wheelbarrow, I had a shovel, and I just bought a saw, and that was it. Everything else was either rented or, bins were being dropped off. The process to get clients, I mean, when I went out on my own, I already had a couple people that were interested in my work. So that was a good kickoff for me. And then a lot of that was word of mouth from them. And then when you're in the neighborhood, I mean, this is like, if you're new and you're starting out, one of the things you got to do is when you're starting your job, you got to go talk to all the neighbors. You got to knock on everybody's door. You got to give them a business card. You want to go a little bit more, give them a coffee card. Say, hey, I'm in the area. I'm working. This is me. When they're walking their dogs down the street, get to know their dogs' names, get to know their names. Like you want to know everybody and you want to be very, very approachable. And that's huge. I mean, that's really what was the catalyst for me being able to continue working on my own. Because I didn't really have any, like when I started working for myself, I had work ethic. I didn't have any business sense. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know how to get leads. I didn't know how to do that, but I just talking to everybody. So when I go buy materials, I would talk to everybody at the desk. I'd make friends with everybody at the counter at the different places. I would use different shops. I mean, my to-go-to place was always Beaver Valley, but when I was doing other jobs in Oakville, stuff like that, we would talk to the different suppliers out there. We'd make friends at the desk. You come in, you buy those guys coffee. You just get everybody talking about you. And you just, be presentable. That's sort of the trick to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know in my experience relocating, it's tough to sort of start fresh, right? Start creating those relationships with people you don't necessarily know. Or even in my case, having a portfolio coming from Kitchener to Toronto and trying to, create those relationships was really difficult. Was that your kind of experience in broadening the suppliers that you were going to and talking with, or what kind of helped you along the way to create more and more relationships and networking with people there?
Just talking, really. I mean, like it's not necessarily always talking about work, but just being memorable, like going in there and just talking about, flirt with the counter girl a little bit, shoot the shit with the guys in the yard about the hockey game, everything. And then same thing, like, again, the big one for me was really talking to everybody on the street that I was working on, because neighbors are curious, right? they're peeking over the fence. And if you're out there busting your ass off and working hard, they're going to take note of that. But if you stop and pause and take a minute to talk to them, they will notice that as well too. So you treat everybody really, really well in the neighborhood you're working in, and then they start talking about you. And then also we're in that age of social media. So chances are a lot of neighborhoods have had bad contractors come through and rip them off. So what they've done is they put together Facebook groups that are specific to that area. So if you're working in an area and they're talking about you on the street, they're talking about you in that Facebook group. And if you're a good contractor, everybody wants to know the good contractor. And if you're very inviting, now you've become even more approachable because they've talked to you on Facebook, they've looked at your Instagram, they see you on the street. So now you've already introduced yourself through the social profiles, and their clients, and their neighbors and friends have already suggested you, and you're approachable. Mm-hmm. Again, so I mean that's really, really big right there.
Definitely.
And that just keeps chaining for me. Like, I mean, spending that time talking to everybody in the neighborhood, just keeps chaining and chaining and chaining and chaining. And that's been my best lead generation out of everything.
Amazing. And then what about social media? When did that start to kind of play a factor? Because I noticed this past year you're a little bit more active, at least on there, than I've seen in the past. Has that kind of played a role at any point in time in your business, or is this like a plan for the future and getting more and more active there?
Yeah, for sure. So we try to, like, I'm trying to do that more often. We'll probably start throwing the GoPro up on job sites, stuff like that, just to get more attention like that, or to give us more stuff to clip. Like, you don't realize how much content you actually have until you start looking at your phone roll, and you can just do a big phone dump. And then I got my guy Andrew, who's probably watching. He's been starting to play with the social media stuff too. So he started to play with like CapCut and things like that. You might have seen some of his stuff recently on our, but the main thing with that, I guess, is with the social media stuff, the more people that see that, the more inviting you are. It's like a TV show, right? Mm-hmm. Like everybody knows Al Bundy from Married with Children, or whatever TV show. So if you become that face in the area, you've already introduced yourself, and people already know you, and you're already more of a welcome presence before you've even met anybody. Right. So that's where sort of social helps like that. Plus, I mean, it's fun to show off. I find that when we're showing off stuff, it's usually other contractors and other suppliers that are usually the ones that respond to that. But those talking videos are usually the ones that seem to resonate more with homeowners or people that are looking to find out more about you.
Mm-hmm. And then is Andrew one of your employees there that you also have doing the sort of CapCut, playing around with the videos and stuff?
Oh, yeah. He's the number one guy, man.
Nice. That's awesome. And so how has it been trying to find people, employees for your business, starting off in 2019 to where it is today?
It's been hit or miss, right? So again, when I started, it was just me. And now, if you take everybody that we have in the group, we're up to, counting Andrew, that's 2. Yeah. So we're not huge yet, right?
Yeah.
So, we've had a couple guys come and go. We've always had a couple friends here and there that have come and help out on some days, stuff like that. So I'm sort of developing a way to hire people, because I found that just hiring anybody isn't working, right? You get a guy for a couple of days, and then it's also I have to be able to take the time to teach them as well too, right? So as trying to find an experienced guy. If you're trying to find that great big experienced guy, good luck, man. He's hired somewhere else, or he's already got a goal or something. It's very unlikely. So for me going forward, I have to have a whole training process set up. Mm-hmm. And then finding that person, they haven't found them yet.
Yeah, and then the workmanship that goes along with your projects, and the beautiful projects that you've done, and that I've seen this year especially, but also in the past. Where does that kind of play a role into growing your business, and how important is it to you that you're doing and taking on those more intricate projects, throwing in those natural stone, the customization, and so on there?
Well, it's all really like setting yourself apart from everybody else. So there's a couple different things there, right? One, you want to put your own creativity into your project. So that was a big thing for me starting my own business too, was I wanted to take the things that I was seeing and put them in there, because a lot of people don't have that creativity. Anybody can install those square pavers one off, but people sometimes skip on even something as small as just doing a double banding border. It takes that project to another level, right? Incorporating natural stone, putting in curves. I remember going to different trade shows in the past, and they're always like, oh, everything's got to be square. You got to make profit with square. But man, I can do curves, and I can make things look cooler, and I can add those little elements at the same price as doing the square stuff, within reason. If you're cutting circles all over the place, another story. But definitely. But being able to do that, not everybody can do that. And that's you being able to put your own little spin on it. Or, if the client's got a unique idea for the space, I don't want to tell them, no, we're not going to do that. We just want to make it square. No, man, we want to do something cool. We want to make it awesome, right?
Definitely. We do have one question. Where are you located? Yeah, from the
Tor-
Instagram.
Toronto for the most part. We do most of our work's in Mississauga and Oakville, but roughly, if the project's interesting enough and we can work together, I'll go almost anywhere, really.
Yeah. And actually, that's where we initially met at I believe it's called ProSource, one of their training days that they had there. And
Yeah,
we
man.
initially met there, which was great. And anything that you kind of took away from, say, off-season training that you've applied to your business, say, like, are you getting into water features? I believe we met at a water feature event, water features and integrating lighting, like I've seen. Do you use the off season to kind of learn those, and are you implementing those into future designs and stuff?
Oh, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
that's like one of the biggest missed things is lighting and landscaping. It's very simple to do. It's very simple to install. Very hard to get the elements perfect. I mean, if you're going to do lighting, putting it together is very simple. But you got to have a guy like we have Scott from D3 Lighting. He comes in there and he'll do the plan for us. I'll come in there and go, okay, this is what I want to do. We'll introduce him to our client. We'll walk through it. I'll show him the design. And then he's just got a gift for being able to tell you where to put the lights or where to highlight features. And, you got to have a guy like that that can say, okay, like when you're having the party, where's everybody going to go to? What's going to do this? Because the light will also set the mood, but it'll also help guide people to certain areas. I mean, safety and keeping the raccoons out is another part of it as well, too. But lighting up the walkway to pass. And then we always do things in stages. So when we're doing our lighting, we'll have it sort of separate. Usually we'll use what is it, like the app controlled stuff. So
Right.
you'll have it so the joke is always like now you have it controlled so when the party's over you can start turning the lights off in different sections and start forcing people toward the doorway.
Definitely.
And then water
Uh,
features are always good too. I mean that's always a
yeah.
great. I mean that was the right client for that one because not everybody wants that. But I mean that's a really cool thing to add to almost any project. But I think if you're going to spend 100 grand on your landscape, you should have lighting in there somewhere.
And how do you go about selling those to your clients? Like client contacts you, they have some ideas of just like a outdoor space, but how do you get it into personally selling them on lighting if they didn't ask for lighting, or thinking about water features if they never asked for a water feature in that initial kind of lead form?
Yeah, so we like generally, that first meeting with the client, we have that talk. The first thing we try to do, and as cheesy as this might sound, you have to try to get into their house to sit at their coffee table to talk to them. And while you're there, they're profiling you as a potential person they want to work with, but you're also profiling them. So you're looking at their house, you're seeing, did they have a new baby? Is that going to be something? Did they have lots of kids? Did they have a dog? And then you start going from there, okay? So once you have an idea of what they're about and what their design is about, then you start introducing the other things. The main thing is getting the area set up. Once you have the area set up, lighting up particular areas is pretty easy. Lighting's a pretty easy sell once people see it. And then one of our, if we're out there and we're doing our papers, we'll take our little lighting kit and we'll light up little areas for a couple of days, and then we'll take the lighting kit away. And then once they realize how dark that space is without the light, usually people want it lighted.
Hmm.
And then there's always like you can use the cheesy sales technique too, and go, it makes your life safer if this area is lighted up or whatever. Or the other one's like, I mean, if you've got, do you have aspirin at home? Well, why do you have aspirin? Just in case you get a headache. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to get dark every night, so why don't you get some lights, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of install-based questions. One from me here. With your natural stone projects, is that something that you try to lean people towards? Is that something that you really enjoy doing? Or does it depend on the client in terms of going pavers versus natural stone, or thought processes on that from you?
Depends on the space. I like a lot of stuff in the city. A lot of people want that modern, sleek paver look. So we generally go that route. It also depends on safety too, because natural stone can be a little uneven. So it depends on what the area is being used for. I mean, I love to build vertical features out of natural stone. I mean, that's some of my favorite stuff to do. But it depends. Like if the client's got a backyard that's just a big forest, pretty much, like that one in Oakville that we highlighted, they got just a great big forest in their backyard. To go in there and just put a bunch of concrete pavers in there, man, that's destroying it. That's just not good. That's how we got that job. Is we weren't we didn't come in as the lowest bid. We didn't come in as the highest bid. But we came in as when I sat down to talk to the owner, I go, to come back here and just to pave all this would destroy this property. You've got so much nature and so much natural beauty back here. We have to incorporate all this natural stone in here some way. I mean, walking surfaces, okay, we want to do nice flat, clean pavered lines, but some of all the other features, we want to use the natural stone as much as possible because we want to highlight that. When we do the lighting will highlight the natural stone, not so much the paver work, and that's going to make the area magical. It's just going to bring that touch. That's what you're looking for.
And then another question in the chat on the topic of pavers. What's preferred base for your pavers? They mentioned 11s, stone and or sand, but what's your preferred paver base there?
Almost always go open graded base nowadays. I mean, that's just you dig out the hole, you line it with the clod. Well, you do your soil amendments if you have to. If it's like we got lots of clay up here, so you do your soil amendments. You compact your 3/4 clear to the clay. Use a little bit of masonry if need be. Put down that cloth and then start building it up with a 3/4 clean, and then use your HPB for the bedding layer. In some cases, some guys use just HPB. I always say it's less material handling, but I always like to go 3/4 clear first, more void space. Does the last inch, 2 inches with HPB to make it easier to grade.
We want to take a break from today's episode to thank our sponsor, Cycle CPA. It's crucial to review your financial statements on a monthly basis so you can diagnose areas for improving your business's financial health early before they become significant issues. Too many contractors wait until the end of the year to review their financials as they file taxes, when it's often too late to take action to change the outcome. Cycle CPA not only handles bookkeeping and taxes, but they also ensure that you're armed with financial data on a monthly basis to make key business decisions. They offer benchmarking, cash flow forecasting, and assistance in developing targets for financial metrics. With their team of accountants specialized in the hardscape and landscape industry, they currently work with hundreds of companies in this field. Visit cyclecpa.com, and for $200 off, mention the How to Hardscape podcast. Now back to our episode. And then going back on your experience, we're going to jump around a little bit here with working for other people. Were there any things that you noticed that they did that you did not like and did not want your company to be in the future, whether it was installation based or dealing with clients or even dealing with employees? Anything from those experiences that you're like, that's something that I'm not going to do in my business when I started?
Yeah. So if I go to this is the reason why I started getting more into SOPs too. But if I go back to the early days in Parry Sound when we're working on the island, stuff like that, we didn't really have a timeline. There wasn't really an end to the day, and you just worked your ass off. You shouldn't. That's not a good working environment. For me, it was great at the time. I needed that. But as you're building a business, you're building a brand, having guys work 16 to 20-hour days, that's stupid. You're just going to burn your guys out. There's very few guys that'll work like I did then. And it's not fair to treat anybody like that anyway. So going forward, and this is a big one actually that we tell everybody all the time, we do not work Mondays anymore. Like Monday's just not a day that I work. We don't have it booked for anything. We don't go anything on site. And the reason for that being is through all my experience working through the different companies that I've worked for, lots of guys will not go to their doctor. They will not go to their dentist. They won't take that day off, or they don't want to miss a day's pay. So if we give you Monday off, you can now book that. Every Monday you're not working. So you can book your dentist, your doctor, your chiropractor, your grocery shopping, your laundry, whatever. Nobody wants to spend their weekend in Costco with their wife, with everybody else, right? So if you have Monday free to do that kind of stuff, and that's worked for me so far. But I'm still a small company, so maybe that'll change in the future. But I think going forward, I think keeping Monday open for yourself to be able to take care of your personal life on a normal, because the world runs on 9 to 5, right? Mm-hmm. Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. We take Monday off so you can take care of your 9 to 5 stuff.
I like that. That's an interesting idea. With that said, if it is going to rain at some point in the week, say like on Wednesday, would you switch that ever? Say like, hey, we're actually going to work this Monday, but Wednesday you'll have off, or whatever kind of day that provides you.
Well, to be honest, because I'm so small right now, and it's just me and a couple guys at most, we can pivot if we need to. But if I was a big company and I was going, Monday's your day off to book all of your stuff, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Why do I want to change that? If it rains, it rains. It happens. What if it rained Monday? Right. It doesn't matter. The rain day doesn't slow me down. If we fall behind on a timeline, then maybe we'll pick it up on a Sunday if everybody wants to work. It all depends, right?
And then on those other 4 days that you do work, do you put in 10-hour days, or do you have a specified time that you work for those?
Yeah, reasonably. We try to shut everything down by 7 p.m. at the max. Okay. I mean, that's sort of the cap off time. But the goal is usually to finish by 5.
You gotcha.
But I mean, sometimes you're in the middle of something, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you're in the middle of a bunch of cuts. So I mean, 5 o'clock's when you're trying to end the day, but you're not being specific to that time.
Hmm.
But at 5 o'clock, you start being aware that it's time to go home. You don't want. I mean, I know we're hardscapers and you have to work within the seasonal limits, stuff like that. But I mean, you don't need to be shackled to your job your whole life. You've got stuff to do outside of that. You're making your hours. If you're making what you're supposed to, and you're working the 4 days a week, Saturday is always going to be an optional day. If you keep it like that, I think it just makes your business healthier, makes the people around you healthier. And I mean, the client always wants the job done yesterday. And then we try to accommodate that as much as you possibly can, but realistically, you're still working, man. So if you're working, and then you have those days where it's like 40, 50 degrees outside, you got to work around that.
Yeah. And then
So no, we don't compromise the Monday. The Monday's your day off for doing whatever you got to do. We don't change that.
that's great. And with that, going off of time off Mondays, I did have a question and then it totally skipped me. So maybe we'll come back to that. Sales. So we've talked a little bit about sales and trying to, sit down at that dining table. What kind of questions you did draw on this a little bit here in terms of like seeing what their lifestyle's like, do they have kids and so on and so forth. What other things are you trying to draw from them to then start a design for what their space would look like? And at that point, are you charging for the design or built into the project, or what does that look like?
It depends. Like the initial design, I mean, I could do an initial design on UVision with you using a Google. I can take a property of your house from a Google map, drop it into the UVision program, and I can build you something very, very quickly in front of you on a Zoom call. And we can get an idea from there of what pricing looks like. Right. And then once you have an idea of where your budget is, then that's when it's time to actually have that in-person call. Now I've got to see the space. Now we got to look around. Now we got to talk. But I find the one thing, people have no idea what the cost is. And then you're going to see signs out there by the cheap guy saying, I can do interlock for $15 a square foot. Well, we know that guy is ripping everybody off. Right. But the client doesn't usually know that. So once you have an idea of the space, you go, okay, now we have an idea of your square footage. Once we have an idea of your square footage, and I know everybody's going to say, don't price things by square footage. Well, this gives the client an idea that's reasonable. Yeah. So I tell most people, if you're looking at a project, you're going to start at about $40 a square foot. That's going to be an intelligent intro to the conversation. Now, things can bring it down a little bit, probably not much though. And there's always things that can bring it way higher. I mean, you can do jobs that are $100 a square foot if you want to get into like custom natural stone and stuff like that. I mean, it's not unheard of. But if you set that expectation early, that's going to save you a trip to go see the client. If they think $15 a square foot, that's it, that's all, and they don't want to stick to their guns on that, that's not my client.
Definitely. One thing that I struggled with in the beginning was saying that square foot amount, or somebody reaches out like, how much would this be, and I just give them the price, and then they're not comparing apples to apples with a, say, $15 a square foot person, right? They don't have anything to base that off of. They just know that this company is charging $40 a square foot, but this company is charging $15 a square foot, and that would really pre-qualify people, because there would be very few people who would actually schedule a consultation. And I've kind of developed that since. But for you, what does that look like to be able to show them that, hey, we are $40 a square foot, but this is what we do to kind of justify or provide the amount for that $40 a square foot, so that they can look at, oh, this person's $15 a square foot, but they're going to just do this.
I think that comes off as how you present yourself, for one. So you have to show that you're knowledgeable. So when it comes to sales, one of the greatest sales guys, I'm going to name drop a little bit here, but if you've been to the Hardscaper Showcase, right? You see Paver Pete up there on stage talking to everybody. That guy, I mean, that's a master class in sales right there, right? That's not just a show for contractors. That's a master class in sales of that guy being able to show how intelligent he is when it comes to paver stuff. If you can relay any of that to your client, you're already going to separate yourself, because the other guy that's not very good won't be able to talk that intelligently. Once you can talk that intelligently and you can talk to them on when you're talking about doing base preparation, you don't need to go through every little single detailed base preparation. But if you can make it relatable to the client so they can understand what you're saying by the different depths and how deep you got it deep and stuff like that, that's going to carry you a lot further. So your intelligence or your experience and your intelligence put together should be something that the client will recognize if you're any good at it. If you're just going to show up and be like, hey, man, it's $15 a square foot. I bring the boys in, we throw it down, it's done, no problem. Well, then you're going to get what you pay for. But if you come in there and you can go, okay, we've got to dig 16 inches out for your driveway to get a stable base, and we've got to add this much three-quarter clear, and then we also have to add in drainage. And then you get into the different types of pavers and why this paver is $5 a square foot and why this one's 15 a square foot. And then you talk about sealing a little bit. Like your experience will showcase through that, and a good client will start to see why the price is different.
Definitely. We do have a question in the chat about designs. Do you always do your own designs, or do you ever work with an outside designer?
Yeah, we've worked with a couple outside designers. It's rare right now, because I find a lot of the time I'm not getting jobs where I have to go into this crazy intricate design. Some of them I have, but the bigger ones that I've done all my design work for, that's usually me working with the client, and we've gone through like 30 or 40 different renditions through the UVision program. Yeah, it's time consuming, but if the job's worth it, it's worth it. Now, if I need to do something that's, you want to get all the measurements and you want to get somebody that's got a little bit more experience on something that I don't have, then we go to a couple of different designers that we have for sure. I find a lot of the time, and again, my projects are reasonably small, right? I mean, I don't think I have anything. I think my biggest project was 150K. So, I mean, and that's in the terms of landscaping, that's reasonably small, right? If you're just doing a driveway, you don't really need a design concept for the driveway. That UVision program will do it for you. If you want to go into a full backyard planning, I mean, if they want the pool, they want the planting, they want all of that, then you got to go out to a designer, you got to get them, because you're going to have to make sure that you're complying with city bylaws and stuff like that anyways. So you want that full master plan. If you're just installing the pavers, you don't really need to get too crazy with that. So it depends. Again, I guess if the answer is the scope of the job. If the scope of the job is large enough that it warrants a design, then you get a good designer in there.
How about the initial consultation? Do you charge for that? Yes, no, and why or why not?
Yeah. So at the very first time we meet with somebody, we usually charge them on the pretense that if they give us the job, we will refund that. The reason that I think 125 is what we charge that. So it's 125 for me to come out there and talk to you about your project if you want to. A lot of the stuff I can do on a Zoom call, a lot of stuff I can do over the phone. So we might be able to just quash everything right there. But if you want me to come out, take measurements of the property, do all that, it's $125. I will give you everything that I take. So all the measurements, all the little drawings, all the sketches I get, you can have all that as well. And if you go with us for the project, we just refund you the 125. Ideally, what we're trying to do is we're just trying not to waste our time coming out there to measure out all your properties. So you can take everything we did and give it to the next contractor because he's going to charge you $15 a square foot for my drawings.
Yeah, got it. And so yeah, charge for consultations, refunded
your time is your time. So make sure you're charging for your time. Now, if your time gets you the job, hey, as a thank you, give that 125 back because that's a good lead. A good lead that turns to a job is easily worth 120 to 150 bucks, no matter what, anyways.
And you've also mentioned hopping on Zoom calls quite a bit during this interview. Is this something that you try to do like right away as soon as that lead kind of comes in? Or is this something based on feeling if this requires a Zoom before I go out and schedule this in-person consultation? Or what does that look like?
Now, this is something I'm gonna name drop a little bit here. This is something I started getting into you've probably seen the Hardscape Mentor group around Facebook.
Yep.
And part of that group, there's a couple guys in there that are really, really big companies. And they said, one of the best ways to stop all your travel time is to start putting people on Zoom calls. So, and that's, I mean, you should be doing that, having that Zoom call, that face-to-face that we're having now. I can drop, as soon as I'm done talking to you, Mike, I can go and have another client, whereas opposed to driving across the city to go meet them, right? That also gets rid of that consultation fee. I could also see more clients face-to-face in a day. So, I mean, I could schedule, 15 minutes a piece. You could get 30 people in one day as opposed to going 10 and driving all over the city and burning all that gas money. So do I like to do it more? Yeah. And then when we start to get to the design process, I'd love to get the client on the call while I'm designing because I can show that on the Zoom. I can show you what we're building and then they can right there in real time, they can say, oh, I don't like this or I don't like that. Or you want to change the color of the paver, click, click, there you go. That's what that looks like with that color. Click, click, here's what that looks like. You want a water feature? Boom, let's put it over there.
Nice.
So you can do a lot of stuff on Zoom and the technology we have now. I mean, I'm probably simplifying it. There's probably way better ways to do it now, but you can take a lot of those programs like the SketchUp or like I keep saying UVision, and you can put the client on the Zoom call and they can help you design their project in real time or start picking the things that they like or don't like, as long as you sort of have it built and ready for them.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of landing that project in your payment schedules, how much do you typically take for like down payment leading up to the project, or even more importantly, how much do you kind of try to leave to the very end of the project in terms of a percentage?
Yeah, so at the very end of the project, we usually leave 10% on the table. That's usually the profit end for us. So generally, And this will vary a little bit depending on the size of the project, but it's usually 25% upfront once we've had our meetings and we thought you guys are ready to sign on, the contract's all made and all that. When you sign the contract, 25% upfront. Then we'll have different payment marks depending on where it's. Maybe it'll be when the material gets there, maybe it'll be when we start, maybe it'll be at a certain completion point. The idea is you pay a little bit, then we go a little bit. You pay a little bit, we go a little bit. And then at the very end, we go a little bit to finish, and then you pay if you're happy.
That makes sense.
You don't want to put it all out there. You don't nobody wants to do a bunch of work and not get paid, and nobody wants to pay all that money up front either. So it's sort of a give and take kind of thing.
And then I asked this next question because sometimes it relates to that last question I asked. And that's a horror story that you've experienced in your time in business. It could be even working for another contractor, something that you saw as well. But do you have a horror story from your time in business? And the reason why I do ask it is just because people's just starting out, first few years in business, just to give them something that can happen to kind of look out for, maybe put roadblocks in place to stop them from happening. But Nelson, do you have a horror story you'd want to share?
Yeah, there's a couple good ones, but the one that sticks out the most is just it's a bad client. Like it was a bad client, and I learned this when I was working in Parry Sound. I went to a job site with my boss was trying to get the job, and the reason he declined the job is because it looked like a contractor's graveyard. There was leftover stone here, there's a little bit of drywall over here. Guys didn't clean up their mess here. So when you get to I can't say this for everybody, but it's a good telling sign. If you get to a client's house and it looks like a bunch of other contractors have left their shit there, chances are that they've had problems and the guys thought it was easier just to leave the materials and walk away from the job than it was to continue doing that job. And I've experienced that a couple of times where the client thought that again, when you talk to all the neighbors will generally tell you if the guy's a piece of shit or not. Pardon my language, sorry. But if the neighbors don't like him, that's usually a pretty telling sign. If it looks like a contractor's graveyard, that's another pretty telling sign. And then if they're always trying to nickel and dime or they're trying to change everything or all this kind of stuff, I mean, get out right away. It might look enticing to, the guy wants to pay you $3 million to do the job. But if you're not going to get paid, it's not worth it, right? Or if it's going to be stress, you don't want a whole bunch of stress either. And realistically, I mean, you as the contractor also can't just look at the price tag and get excited. You have to make sure that it's a job that you want to do. And if all the signs are there that aren't if it's not your specialty or you're not having that connection with the client, get away. Just get away from it. Drop it, because your time's better spent working for somebody where you're going to be happy being.
For sure.
We want to take a break from today's episode to thank our sponsor, Knowledge Tree Consulting. They are efficiency consultants in the industry with 35 plus years of industry experience building Oriole landscaping in Toronto, which they are completely hands off at this point. George and Peter have been on the podcast before, and George on multiple occasions now. I've personally leaned on him to help with the How to Hardscape headquarters software and how we can maximize the efficiency of user experience. And I know the guys at DTE Landscaping, Chuck and Jeffrey, who we've also had on the show multiple times, have hired them on in the past. Check out their consulting services, peer groups, and events that are coming up on their website, knowledgetreeconsulting.com, or check them out on Instagram at joinktc. Now back to our episode.
Nelson, you've dropped a couple of names already, but let's go through that and ask you people, whether online, offline, that you would want to give a shout out here that have helped you along the way in your business.
Yeah. Well, the original guy, I'd have to say, like my original boss, I don't know what he's doing here, Mikey Sheridan from up north. If he's ever watching these things, man, like I owe him pretty much my life at this point. His brutal work ethic is what carried me a long way to the cities. Shout out to that guy. Who do I want to shout out a lot? There's so many guys in the industry. I mean, I don't want to name drop all the big names because I've just shaken hands with them or something like that. But Pete's sales techniques are definitely influential. The staff at Unilock, like if you're looking for a great paver company that is really like got your back, Unilock has been absolutely fantastic. So I mean, I could shout out to Jason, who's helped us out a lot, and Carolyn, who was our original rep, was just fantastic. She put us in touch with all kinds of suppliers and dealers and stuff at the beginning of my business, which really helped make things a comfortable transition from working for somebody to working for myself. So yeah, I don't want to plug Unilock too much, but I mean, big shout out to them. They've made a huge difference for me. What's going on? No, I wasn't really ready for that question, man. There's so many people out there that are very,
and you don't want to leave anybody off as well, right?
Yeah.
Once you name one, you gotta name them all.
I got it. So, you know what, the KTC guys. So like when I first started going into business for myself, I was at Landscape Ontario, and that's where I met Peter from Oriole. And I actually scheduled to have a meeting with him and George. And I think I kind of surprised. I think they were just starting to do their consultation stuff at the time, so I sort of snuck in there without paying. And I got to meet George. And then when I was talking to George briefly, that meeting taught me more about knowing the numbers to your business. Because before I was just scribbling stuff down on paper, but he put it all up on a board and started comparing. You know, do you want to be the mouse at the bottom of the pile, or do you want to be the koala eating the high quality eucalyptus leaves? And it just sort of gave a perspective. I know it's very general, but
Yeah.
people have probably heard that conversation from. But like talking to those guys who have a very successful business, or that time when we went to that Earthscape thing and we seen Sam talking about his business, like those guys that have these big businesses that have been around for a long time are such a great resource for people to talk to. And it just helps give you direction. What else? Well, the Leanscaper show that we went to there that one time, where Mark Bradley was talking about all how like the different systems, and he gave everybody that booklet of how to structure your business, what a $1 million company looks like, what a $50 million company looks like, all the processes in between. I mean, that really gets you thinking about how to build your business too, right? So
Definitely.
and then I guess well, I don't want to keep shouting people out. There's been so many people in my 20 years of working that the list could go on forever.
Definitely. And one thing I also ask is struggles that you're experiencing right now in your business through 2025, or things that you're trying to or looking at improving in 2026 in your business.
So social media being huge. Like you've got to learn how to leverage social media in some way, shape, or form. And I guess my advice to people on that one would just be like, just start posting stuff. You'll get better at it as you go. Just put up whatever. It doesn't matter. If it's a picture of your lunch and you're having your lunch break, put it up there. Just start putting it up there. Start tagging it. Start tagging people that you work with. Start doing stuff like that. And learn how to use your online presence to influence your business, because that's going to be a big part of everything going forward, especially with like AI. And struggling, I guess, struggling with that technology change, I think, is something that a lot of people are experiencing.
Yeah, I agree. And
then try to filter out those $15 a square foot guys, man. Try to compete with those guys. Of course, I mean it's always going to be an issue. But
yeah, for sure. We do have another question here. AJ from Monolith Hardscapes. What do you use for booking your clients for the Zoom meetings? Do you have a specific way of doing that, or just a matter of sending them a Zoom link?
Yeah, so right now I'm just sending them a Zoom link. I don't have like this huge backlog of clients. I'm definitely looking at, you can use your Google Calendars to schedule stuff like that. For the most part, you just, same way that you would schedule meeting them in person, schedule that Zoom call. So again, like I have Mondays completely free. I could do all my Zoom calls on a Monday. That's what I wanted to do, right?
Gotcha.
That's an ideal thing for me to do in my case, because like I said, we don't work Mondays. Well,
yeah.
I don't. Or I work Mondays.
Oh, actually, that brings up my question that I just recalled now. So Mondays, what do you do personally? Is it more even for you, a personal day, or is this a day that you try to do consultations and those Zoom meetings specifically on Mondays?
I'd love to lie and say I do nothing, but truth is that's usually where I'm sort of, again, when you're starting your own business, you're wearing all the hats. That's extra hat day. So whatever I need to do, whether it's reaching out to a client, following up, booking something, that's usually what happens that day. But I do try to keep it light for Monday. Like if I'm doing anything Monday, it's usually inside at the desk, or, it's between going to the gym or whatever. Like I prioritize things that I need to do in my life on Monday before I prioritize doing stuff for my business on Monday.
Gotcha. Nelson, what would be the next hire in your business? Would it be infield person? Would it be part-time admin person? Like if you had the perfect person kind of come across your way to hire, what would you want their skill set to be?
It'd probably be, this is a tricky one, because it's, I like to work. Like I like to be laying the bricks. I like to be cutting the bricks. I like to be on site. So for me, it's hiring somebody to run the business, as funny as that might sound. Somebody to do, like, I'd rather be on site working all day. That's what I love to do. But I guess, either having the right employee that can be in the field working so I can go and do office stuff, or having somebody that can do all the office stuff so I can remain in the field.
Yeah. I'm kind of in a similar boat there as well. One thing for scheduling Zoom meetings, if anybody's listening to this that's interested, Calendly has been huge for me, especially with all the different things that I do. You can just put your your availability. Clients can go in, click on it, schedule that Zoom meeting for themselves. It's that's a great tool, and I think it's free for one if you have one schedule there. So if anybody's interested in that, listening in on Instagram, that's a big one for scheduling those consultations. Nelson, one last question for you is a big one. One thing you know now that you wish you knew from the very beginning. This can be business related, this can be personal related, but do you have one thing that you know now that you wish you knew from the very beginning?
Yeah. The importance of saying no, whether it be no to a bad client or no to yourself. I find for me, I'm my biggest roadblock for things. Like a good example is working in the heat. And I'll just use this, again, this can apply to anything, but for working in the heat, when it's 40, 50 degrees outside, I'll be that guy that's in there in the sun, who's running the jackhammer through the concrete nonstop. And that's not good, and it's not healthy. So you should have some sort of system in place to protect you from yourself.
I like that.
Like make time for yourself, man. There's this has been repeated through the industry, but I mean, there's lots of guys out there that threw themselves into their work and they're now divorced. They're now living miserable lives because they were so work focused. Your work should always be secondary. When you're doing your work, make it your number one priority while you're there, but make sure that when you're not doing your work, you've taken a step back and you're making sure that you're living life too.
That's very good. I like that. Nelson, I have really appreciated running into you at different industry events, getting to talk to you for a brief period of time here and there. And I thank you for taking your time to do this live podcast for the first time here on the How to Hardscape podcast. But Nelson, where can our audience go find out more about you? Call Nelson Landscaping. Actually, before you answer that, where did you come up with the name Call Nelson Landscaping? Was it always that from the very beginning, or where did that come from?
No, it was just kind of there's a couple things. Okay, so accidental marketing. So my name's Nelson. I was starting to do landscaping. I wanted you to call Nelson Landscaping. Sort of fell into place. The logo and stuff like that. Like I was just sitting there on a stoop one day on a job, and the lead generation company I hired at the time, they're like, "Do you have a logo yet?" Like, no. And I looked up at my truck, and my truck's like the Maple Leaf Edition Ford F-150. I was like, I don't know, put a maple leaf on it. I go, what color? I'm in Toronto. We're a hockey city. We got the maple leaf. Make the colors blue and white. We bleed blue in the city, right? So we just sort of went that route, and that's just sort of how that all came to be. I mean, just accidental marketing and knowing the area that you're in. And my name's Nelson.
That's beautiful. Where can our audience go find out more about you? Where do you want to send them to?
You can send them right to the website. Instagram, of course. Follow us on Instagram. Instagram's probably one of the best ways to get a hold of us. The website's there, but as I'm learning with websites, they're always outdated. But callnelsonlandscaping.ca, cnlhardscapes.com. We have both of those, and that's probably that's the best. You can get a lot of our see a lot of our stuff up there. But Instagram is probably the best way to get a hold of us on everything.
Awesome, Nelson. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Shout out to everybody. Happy hardscaping.
Yeah, and for Axia, Alex there, Design Build, can you sync your Google Calendar to Calendly? Yes, you can. So that's a easy answer there. Thanks so much, everybody.
You should have right there, man. Get Alex on there.
Yeah. Thanks so much, everybody that tuned in on Instagram here. And Nelson, thank you for the idea to actually do this Instagram Live. It was great. It's a little bit more difficult because I'm trying to listen to your answers, think of follow-up questions while also looking at the chat, but that was an awesome idea, so thank you for that. Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. Check out Nelson at Call Nelson Landscaping on Instagram. Also want to say thank you to contractor Hayden, who left us another comment on a past episode. This was the chart of accounts every landscaping business needs with George Vari of KTC. He said, I attended one of Oriel's open house a few years ago, led by George and Peter. They are super open about numbers, and it's impressive to see how dialed in their landscape business is. Thank you so much, Hayden, for that comment. Once again, you can leave a comment if you're listening on Spotify. I'll read it on the episode. You can also leave a rating and review on Spotify. That does help us here. You can also leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's been a bit since we got one of those, so if you wouldn't mind leaving a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. And before we leave, we want to say thank you to our sponsors. Cycle CPA, if you're looking for bookkeeping, accounting, CFO services, reach out to Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com. Let them know how to Hardscape sent you for money off their services there. And Knowledge Tree Consulting. George and Peter there are efficiency consultants in our industry, and I've had the privilege of having them both on one episode of the How to Hardscape podcast, and George multiple other times. Always great episodes, and I also got to sit down on a one-on-one with George and went through what they do for businesses, and I left that meeting with a lot of value, so I can't recommend them enough. If you want to learn more about what they do, go to knowledgetreeconsulting.com and get that conversation started with them today. And we look forward to meeting you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.